Hey photographers, I'm not sure whether I love or I loathe the new Olympus OMD E-M10 Mark III, and not just because of its difficult name. Like its stablemates, it has a bunch of really cool features, but it also has a share of aggravations.
Here's scene mode. 6 selections, and each offers a variety of additional options. In motion, for example, you can capture fast sport action, but there's also a panning mode that detects motion and adjusts the shutter speed accordingly. I have to see how well that works. Close-up includes an 8-image focus bracket. The stabilization for video is second only to the E-M10, and the ability to adjust the highlight and shadow curves can be very useful. Lots of cool features like live composite and live time, which keep the shutter open until you decide there's enough light. That's the love. But video settings are scattered far and wide in the multiple menu and setting screens, and some features like 4K HDMI output and shutter anti-shake just don't work. And the advertised 8.6 frame per second burst, after 1 second it slows to 4. With silent shutter, the aperture and the shutter speed can't be set.
Olympus provided a new retail packaged E-M10 III for my review. The kit includes the camera, a memory card, as well as this sweet little carry case. Nice bundle.
The E-M10 is the baby of the OMD family. The E-M1 and E-M5 models are larger, heavier, and more expensive. However, they share the same 4/3 processor and micro 4/3 lenses, although the E-M1 has 20 megapixels compared to the 16 on the M5 and M10. It's a stylish little unit, although some of the controls turn a little too easily and protrude just enough to be frequently accidentally adjusted. However, not many cameras in this class have both front and back dials for manual shooters who want to control aperture and shutter. These photos are nearly all JPEGs, and I like Olympus JPEG processing, but when I used the RAW files, I was able to recover lots of detail. The kit came with the super compact 14-42 f3.5 to 5.6 lens, 28 to 84 in 35mm terms. It sounds wider than it is. Zoom by wire is activated using the larger ring on the lens, slightly difficult to control precisely. I find the left side power switch somewhat awkward, as I carry the camera in my right hand and then need my left to turn it on. On a camera this size, the curved front and the exaggerated back curve provide a solid hand grip. There are a variety of surface textures on the mainly plastic body. Except for power, the remaining controls are nicely positioned on the lower part of the right side and are easily accessed, except for the focus exposure lock button, which I found hard to find while using the viewfinder. There are no locks on the controls. HDMI and USB on the right side, battery and UHS 1 card slot on the bottom. The flash, don't look for a flash button, it's released with the third position on the power switch, has a guide number of 8 at ISO 200. The 1,000,000.3-inch 3:2 aspect LCD screen swivels up and half down. The bright OLED viewfinder's diopter adjusts enough to shoot without my glasses. There's a button to switch the monitor and the viewfinder, but it only works if you turn the auto off in the menu, and that is just plain dumb. Auto should be an option available from the button. Both displays use fairly low-res fonts and icons. And interestingly, the menu only appears on the monitor, not in the viewfinder, which goes black when the menu button is pressed. Select a focus mode by pressing the OK button. Up-down to select the focus option, then left-right to choose the one you want. Single, continuous, manual, then manual with auto assist and continuous tracking. The selection for stills is independent from video. Press the left cursor key to select the focus area. Use the front dial to select the size. Move using the cursor keys. Switch from auto to program, and the back dial selects face detect. Not sure why this is an area as opposed to a mode, but off, on, and with eye. I don't understand why you'd turn eye off. There's an on-screen button for touch operations, focus, and snap, or just focus modes are available. In touch focus, use the slider on the right to set the size of the area. The size can't be set in video mode, and touch focus works in video mode, but it's slow, and I found it less reliable while recording. The context menu is touch-enabled. To select the setting, use the dial to change the setting. The OK menu and the main menu are not touchable. Touch can be completely disabled using the menu. And note that if you find the pop-up tips get in the way, turn them off or back on again with the info button. There's a small ring in front of the zoom ring for manual focus. Use menu option page A to enable the Manual Focus Assist expanded view. Turn the ring to activate the expanded view, which is moved using the cursor keys. Expanded view is not available in movie mode, so back to the MF Assist menu to add peaking. Then go to C1 to select the peaking color. Am I crazy to think these should be next to one another? I'll get to video in a minute. But the focus selections in video mode are different. A larger area of the screen is covered, and the only sizes are single spot and full. Focus is speedy and confident. I just don't understand why the touch mode isn't equally speedy. Use the mode dial to select Auto, Program, Aperture, Shutter, Manual, and Video, as well as 3 specialty modes, Scene, Advanced, and Art filters. The left side context control button opens a menu of features and capabilities specific to the mode. In Auto, that's a novice control panel to adjust settings like shutter by referencing motion blur or aperture by referencing background blur. In Art, the 30 settings. In Scene, the scenes. In Program, the back dial selects alternate shutter aperture combinations. The front dial, exposure compensation. In Manual, front is aperture, which closes to f/22, back is shutter, 1/4000 to 60 seconds, and bulb. But live time and live composite are here also. Hold on a second for more detail on those. For ISO, press the top of the control pad, 200 to 6400. I like that the meter follows along. Then extension up to 25.6. And there's an unnumbered low extension. Auto with default and limit is set in the menu, but there's no triggering shutter speed for P&A modes. In 2017, I expect ISOs up to 6400 to be relatively clean and usable, and that's the extent of the OM10-3's range, and it delivers. But even the extended ISOs, 12.8 and 25.6, are free of color shifts and the obvious mushiness that tends to appear at higher settings. And this is the 100% view, not too shabby. To select a meter mode, press the context button for the control panel, matrix, center weighted, and spot. 2 variations on spot. Highlight keeps the bright subjects bright, shadow keeps dark subjects dark. Use at your discretion. Might be easier to use the exposure compensation. In addition to the meter, there's also on-screen vertical and horizontal levels, which look very much like a meter. Press Info for the histogram. I like this wide display with the color coding. I find it more useful than most. The green here indicates the spot area. Note that the histogram disappears when the ISO is adjusted, but a numerical meter displays in the info panel. Use the OK menu to select one of the white balance presets, or press up and the shutter to capture to one of the 4 custom settings. Note that white balance can't be captured in video mode, an annoying exclusion. Or select using the Kelvin scale. Use the context menu to make fine-tuning adjustments along the red-blue or green-magenta axis. Now there's an interesting menu option for white balance. If low-light interiors are too white and you'd like a little more warmth, the warm lighting option will keep the warmer tones. There's a dramatic difference between the two, as these images illustrate. Press OK, and from the top of the right side menu, select Color Profiles, here called Picture Modes. There's no offsetting. The default is Eye Enhance. I'd use Natural. Worth noting that in Auto, the only color option is Eye Enhance. That kind of killed Auto mode for me. As you scroll through, you'll also find all of the art filters, which also have a dedicated mode dial position. I'll scroll through slowly so you get an idea. What I find useful here is that if you're shooting JPEG plus RAW, the JPEG file has the effect, the RAW does not. Some interesting options here. Color Creator provides dials to select the color and set the intensity, or to select the color for partial color. Using the context menu, sharpness, contrast, gradation, and saturation can all be adjusted. Gradation isn't the usual. It adjusts the response curve. High key is more contrasty, lower is less. However, slide down to Highlight Shadow Control and turn the front and back dials to create a steeper curve for a more contrasty image or a flatter curve for a flatter image. No change in the dynamic range with these adjustments. Press the down button to access the drive menu, single, and anti-shock. Anti-shock, a feature not mentioned in the manual, inserts a delay in the shutter process, which may reduce the vibration caused by closing of the shutter prior to exposure. This could be useful for macro or long zoom images. The delay time is not configurable here as it is on other Olympus models. Two burst speeds, called sequential in the Olympus language, shooting fine large JPEGs with manual settings. In the first second, it captures 10 images, then slows to an average of about 4.5 per second, a total of 140 images in 30 seconds. Low, with the exception of the first second, is about the same, 137 images in 30 seconds. Low with anti-shock is absolutely identical. I don't understand this setting. Burst is also available with Advanced Photo Mode for silent shooting, and this is actually the best of all, over 200 images in 30 seconds. However, no aperture or shutter control in this mode. I'm not sure why there's not just a silent or electronic shutter setting available in manual exposure mode to actually take advantage of this. While shooting skaters at Toronto City Hall, I found using burst with continuous autofocus to be slow and somewhat uncooperative. 12 and 2-second timers, and a custom mode, where the timer can be set up to 30 seconds, up to 10 frames, and intershot intervals of 1/2 to 3 seconds, and this is considerably more flexibility than average. The combined intervalometer time-lapse settings are found in the main menu. One less than 1,000 frames, interval length over 24 hours. The frames can also be saved to a movie file, 720, 1080, or 2160, but at 4K, the only frame rate is 5, 1080 up to 15, 720 up to 30 frames. The video file is at the photo aspect ratio. 16:9 would be better than 4:3, but as the 16 megapixel stills are also saved, many things are possible. While at the rink, I also tried the motion panning setting. I have the feeling that although manual settings would have required a little trial and error, the results might be better. The mode dial's advanced photo settings include a selection of interesting capabilities, some unique to Olympus. And I think the live composite mode, which can be selected from advanced photo and as a shutter speed in manual mode, is quite magic, although it does require a bit of planning to find the right time and location. I turned the exposure as low as possible and started the shot. Over time, watch the bottom right as I'm going to skip ahead through this 3.5-minute exposure, the image builds up. When you're happy with the results, press the shutter again to finish the image. It's also great for fireworks and star trails. As I said, time and location. Now, I was not able to find the right situation for live time, which is a little more complex. Focus bracketing can be useful for macro images, either to get the focus exactly right or to combine in a focus stack in Photoshop. 8 images are taken with 2 options, small for macro work and larger. There's multi-exposure, which displays the first image to align the second. Use the EV dial to adjust the brightness of the second image. Panorama, it takes the images, but you assemble them on your computer. That's not as helpful as most, but likely yields higher quality final images after you have assembled them. And here's a feature you don't find elsewhere, Keystone, with both vertical and horizontal adjustments. Although there are lots of limitations and quirks with the EM10-3's video recording capabilities, its star feature is stabilization. Unlike any other camera I've used recently except the EM1 II, the stabilization is a delight. Just holding it and shooting, it's clear how much it's stabilizing the shot. I won't say it's as good as an outboard stabilizer, but it's very good. There are two video stabilization options accessed from the menu. One uses both sensor shift and digital. Two uses sensor shift only. There's no crop with sensor shift. There is one with dual. I primarily use dual. With the exception of the advanced photo setting, video can be recorded in any mode, including art filters. So if you want a grainy monofilm look, in those modes, use the menu to select the frame rate and the quality labeled bitrate without actually specifying a number. No option for 4K. In movie mode, use the context menu to choose standard or HD, as well as 4K, clips, and high-speed recording. Then use the OK menu to select the exposure mode, PAS or M. In 4K, the only resolution and frame rate is UHD 30. In HD, 1080 at 60 and 30 at superfine, and 720 at 30. But go back to the menu to select 25 for PAL or 24 for cinema settings. Now the OK menu has 1080 and 720 at 24. Now you'll also need the menu to select the quality, superfine, fine, and normal. In 4K there is no quality option, so select the format here, the quality and resolution here, or here, and the frame rate here. Not sure I enjoy chasing these settings in 3 different places. This could be simpler. In video, there's one more menu, touch, and it slides out. And this allows for silent adjustments while recording video. I warmed up the studio to about 24 Celsius to test overheating while recording 4K 30 frames. With a 64GB SD card, the EM10-3 estimated I could record for 1 hour and 21 minutes. The manual makes no mention of an overheating icon, so I was hopeful, as this is a common issue with small cameras that record 4K. In 4K, recording time is limited to 29 minutes, both elapsed and remaining appear bottom right. After 29 minutes, there's still 1 hour and 8 minutes of card space left, clearly an estimation error, but there's no impact on the battery, which still looks full. Another 29 minutes of recording with the temperature more like 25 Celsius, still no dent in the battery, still 55 minutes remaining, no sign of overheating. The video files, recorded in H.264 with an MOV extension, are saved in 5-minute 20-second chunks, about 1.8 gigabytes each. At 4K, I measured a bitrate for this scene of under 50 megabits, which is about average. The bitrate is variable. I recorded some scenes with bitrates up to 100 megabits. After recording for 87 minutes, 42 minutes left. Still no sign of battery usage or overheating. Now, it's always fun to see which happens first. The card fills up, the battery dies, or the camera overheats. And just before the end of the 4th segment, the battery started to flash, and it stopped about 12 minutes later, a total of 124 minutes of recording without an overheating warning. The camera and the battery felt slightly warm, and the SD card is only 2/3 full. And those are good results. Although I'd be even happier if the bandwidth was consistent and higher, and a single file contained the whole recording, and if there was no segment limit. For comparison, the bitrate at 1080 60 frames superfine for this scene is also about 50 megabits. Fine 60 takes it down to about 30 megabits. Normal is about 17 megabits. More is always better. The EM10-3's rolling shutter effects are minimized by the stabilization, here in 4K, and also in HD, where the stabilizer makes the pan look a little jerky. Turning stabilization off improves the HD footage with little rolling shutter effect. 4K, however, shows quite a bit of rolling shutter with stabilization off. There's neither an audio port or a swivel screen, which means that this camera won't be very interesting to vloggers. I won't mention that there's no zebra. HD mode has 5 on-screen buttons. Touch the icon to select the effect. Press Art Fade to select an image effect, and then smoothly transition to it while recording. Starting with monochrome or grainy and transitioning to normal might be an interesting way to start a scene. Old movie adds scratches and other effects to artificially date your recording. The next 2 settings echo your recordings. The first turns the effect on and off. The second activates it momentarily. The last feature is digital zoom. Although the area can't be sized, it can be positioned and then use touch to zoom in and back out again. Now, these features are not available in 4K. Live HDMI out is available in stills and video mode. The output is 1080p 60. Neither the resolution or the frame rate changes based on the other settings. There is a menu option to select 720, which works, and 4K, which does not. Olympus tech support clarified that this is a playback-only setting. Use the Info button to cycle to a clean output. There's no LCD display when an HDMI device is connected. The Clips feature creates a class of short video recordings. Press down to select the clip length 1 to 8 seconds, then press record. There's a countdown bottom right, but regardless of the setting, holding your finger on the record button extends the recording up to 16 seconds. After recording, the clips screen appears to reorder the clips you've recorded. It can also be selected in playback to play or export the combined clips as a single file. There are image effects, a fade or cut setting, and a single default music track selection. 12 more tracks can be downloaded from the Olympus website. Copy them to a new folder called BGM on your SD card. You can simultaneously have multiple clips on the go. It requires a lot of discipline, but this is a very interesting feature to create a quick synopsis video of an event or destination. The issue is, of course, that if you're creating clips, you can't be recording a longer video at the same time. High Speed, which records without audio, creates slow motion clips. It dims out both resolution and quality settings on the menu, and there's only one option, 720 resolution at 120 frames with a very low bit rate around 15 megabits. These recordings play back at 30 frames, so 1/4 slow, and have a maximum clip length of 20 seconds. Very limited, but at least Olympus can put a check mark next to the 120 frame in the feature list. Press the on-screen button to start the ad hoc Wi-Fi. Then connect using the free Olympus Image Share app. Images on the camera are displayed. Select which you'd like. To edit photos, a second Olympus app, Image Palette, provides many of the art filters and other settings available on the camera. The remote control capability is useful and full-featured. The first time I've seen one with the ability to change the mode dial position. Most camera settings can be adjusted remotely. And stills are recorded on the SD card at the current settings. An option sets which size is transferred. Video mode resets the format to 1080 fine at 30p. That can't be changed. There's a geotagging option, and although it seems as if there's the ability to turn the camera off remotely, I couldn't get that to work. Playback options include the ability to edit both JPEG and RAW images, and using Art Bracket you can select some or all of the artifacts, and the M10 saves a version of the file with each filter. Audio recordings up to 30 seconds can be created and associated with an image. They're saved as WAV files on the card with the same file name as the image. 2 buttons can be customized. The default for the function 2 button, which is directly beside the video record button, is digital 2x zoom. Although that's handy, several times I accidentally pressed it instead of video record, so I reassigned it to the focus area select. The interesting note to the digital zoom feature, it only applies to the JPEG image. The RAW has the full sensor capture. The interface does have a lot of redundancy, not that that's a bad thing, but stuff does appear in several places, which is sometimes confusing as the options available can differ, as in video settings. The menu seems simple, or at least simpler than previous Olympus models. Many options have been moved to either the context menu and are accessed with the context button, or the overlay menu accessed with the OK button. This sometimes means jumping back and forth while you try to find related settings that should be adjacent. The menu skips over options that aren't available with the current settings, and the manual is short on detail to explain when settings aren't available, making it hard to figure out why a specific feature is dimmed out. There is a quick start and quick tips guide to selected features. Download a more detailed manual from the Olympus support site.
Battery life is about average for a mirrorless camera, but the E-M10 III can't be powered or charged with USB. There is an external battery charger provided. But back to love or loathe. I could go either way, but I'm gonna let it go. However, if the stabilization and some of the cool features appeal to you, maybe the things that I found upsetting won't get to you. Relevant questions and civil comments below. Please like. Keep shooting until your battery is empty and your memory card is full, and if you've got one more click, consider subscribing.